Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. Hi, everyone. It's currently 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, and I couldn't wait to record this podcast because I am coming off of a high last night from an amazing girls' night. On top of that, my best friend Jess is also living with us for a couple months to see if she wants to move to Austin too. So I couldn't wait to record this podcast because this podcast is all about friendship. And more specifically, it's all about friendship breakups. Welcome to Wildly Capable, everyone. My name is Kate DeRocher, and I'm your host. And this is a podcast made for those who are looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. We talk about everything from dating, relationships, friendships, self-worth, anything to help you build better relationships, starting first with the one that you have with yourself. So last night, I had over 8 different girls that I've met so far while living here in Austin, Texas. I've been here for roughly 7 months now, so I'm still fairly new, but it has been incredibly easy to build friendships here. And I moved here from LA. I lived in LA for 12 years, and I had incredible friends in LA too. In fact, one of the reasons that it took me so long to leave LA, 12 years is a long time to live in such a transient city. One of the reasons it took me so long to finally cut the cord and to move to a new city, to have the courage to move, was because of the girlfriends that I'd built there. But those friends that I cultivated both in LA and in Austin, my friendships didn't always look like that. I didn't always have the type of friendships where somebody would literally come from LA to Austin to live with us for a couple months. That's how close we are. That's how comfortable we are with each other. I didn't always have those types of friendships. And throughout the journey of building my friendships, I have lost plenty along the way. Yes, I have gained the right people for me, but I've also lost many. I have gone through many friendship breakups. And last night, as I was sitting in my backyard with all of these girls and with my best friend from LA by my side, I couldn't help but think about wow, what a journey it's been to get here, to build friendships like these, to meet incredible women. It has not always been easy. I know any of you listening to this podcast or who listen regularly know that I've had a hard time building the right, healthy, romantic relationship for me too. So it's the same thing with my friendships. It took me time. It took me shedding old patterns. It took me becoming a better person and friend myself before I could have these sorts of friendships. And I want to talk about friendship breakups specifically. I think I'll do another episode about just building friendship in general. But I want to do an episode right now specifically about friendship breakups because I think we talk so often about romantic breakups. We see it in the movies. We talk about it constantly at girls' nights. It's a constant topic of discussion. But what isn't really talked about quite as much, because there is a sort of stigma and shame around it, I think, are friendship breakups. Friendship breakups, not romantic, friendship. So let's talk about it. Let's dive into it because I know as a fact, I am not the only person who's had them. Every person that I know has had some form of a friendship ending in the past. And all of us felt just as, heartbroken and sad as we did when our romantic relationships ended. So I want to dive into it and I want to get really real and raw about friendship breakups. So that way anybody listening to this who's going through one or has been through one doesn't have to feel so alone. Before we keep going, I want to quickly tell you all about a retreat that I'm hosting this Labor Day weekend, August 30th through September 2nd in Dripping Springs, Texas. Dripping Springs is the gateway to hill country in Texas, so it is just wide open space, beautiful hills, beautiful sunsets, nature. It's just a stunning area. So I chose to do it there because I wanted us all just feel very, not distracted by things going on in the city or the sound of cars. I wanted it to be secluded and to bring us back in touch with nature. So the retreat will be in Dripping Springs. I have 5 spots left in the retreat. I'm only offering 10 spots total. And I would love for any of you incredible women who are listening to this to join us for the retreat. It's called the Wildly Capable for Women Retreat, and it is going to be 3 days of self-discovery, healing, and growth. I'm going to take you on a journey of stepping into your wild woman. I believe that all women are created with this immense, incredible power within them, but we just don't always know how to use it. And we also don't always know how to use it for something good and positive and beautiful. So I'm going to walk you through that. We're going to do intensives about dating, relationships, self-worth, and it's not just romantic relationships. If you've been following me for long enough, you know that I do talk about romantic relationships, but my work encompasses all relationships. We might end up talking about your relationship with your family or with your friends, like we're talking about in this episode. So any of you who want to build better relationships, especially the relationship that you have within, this retreat is for you. We're going to go horseback riding. We're doing yoga, a sound bath. There's going to be a private farm-to-table chef who's making us all of our meals. We're going to do a few different special ceremonies, like a cacao ceremony, a paint therapy ceremony. We're going to be doing just a ton of different adventures and activities to help you really grow into the woman you were always created to be. So if you're interested, if this sounds like something that will take your life and your relationships to the next level, then please sign up. I created this retreat after everything that I needed in my own life to build better relationships. I have lived this, I've experienced it, I've broken through so many patterns and mindsets and wounds, and now I have the relationships and the life that I always dreamed of. So I want to help you experience the same sort of growth. So if you're interested, use code RETREAT on my website, www.katederocher.com. Use it at checkout. You'll get 10% off. Please sign up. Please join us. You get that special 10% off just by listening to this podcast. It would be amazing to have you there. So this Labor Day weekend, August 30th through September 2nd in Dripping Springs, Texas, join me for my Wildly Capable for Women retreat. It's going to be absolutely life-changing, a completely transformative weekend. I would love to have you there. Okay, now let's get to it. Let's talk about friendship breakups. We have probably all likely felt the pain of a romantic relationship ending. I say this all the time. You've probably heard me say this, but I would rather have somebody break a bone in my body than break my heart. That's how painful I believe that breakups are. So we talk about romantic breakups all the time, but what we don't talk about nearly as much, and that is just as damaging and important, are when friendships end, when friends go through breakups. Friendship breakups can honestly often feel even more confusing than when a romantic relationship ends. Because in romantic relationships, we know no matter what, as we step into that relationship, that there is a level of risk involved. We know that either that's going to be the person we spend the rest of our life with, that we get married to, that we are life partners with, or it's going to be somebody that we date for a while, short period of time, however long, and then discover that they are not our person. So we move on to the next person until we find the one. So we know that there's a level of risk. But when we form new friendships and when we get into new friendships, that's not really on our mind quite as much. Maybe a little bit, especially as we get older, especially as we hit our 30s and above, we start to pay more attention to who we're choosing as our friends, just in the same way that we choose who we're dating. So we learn to kind of vet friendships and we get better at it. And we only bring people who we trust and feel safe with closer into our circle. But especially when we're younger, in our 20s, even younger than that, we don't picture friendships ending. And when they do, even when they end when we're older, they are just as gut-wrenching as an actual breakup. Like I was explaining at the start of this podcast, I am lucky to be surrounded by incredible friends today. But that was not always the case. I had to break free from the same exact patterns in my friendships that I had to in my dating life. I was attracting unhealthy friendships, unhealthy friends, toxic relationships, just toxic dynamics. I have had plenty of falling outs with my friends. There have been many instances of this happening, but one of the ones that was most recent and really was the one that helped me break free from those patterns is when me and I guess my former best friend stopped being friends back in 2020, 2021. So me and this girl, we had been close friends for roughly 2-3 years. We met through a mutual friend at church, and our friendship kind of took off. We kind of became each other's people pretty quickly. We traveled to Australia together. Her family took care of my dog for Christmas. We ended up moving into the same apartment together. We just did all of these things together, and she became my person. And I deeply loved her, and I still deeply love her. But at one point in our friendship, we moved from one apartment together to a different one, to a house together, because I had gotten Storm, I had gotten my dog, and I really wanted to have a backyard for Storm. And finding a house with a yard in LA when you are not a millionaire is quite challenging. So in order to make that happen, this friend and I, we had to bring in a couple of roommates to afford an actual house with a yard for Storm. So we find a house. It's a really beautiful house. We want the house, but we don't, it's just us. So we don't have enough people to fill this house to be able to afford it. So we ended up bringing in a guy that we met on Facebook Marketplace, which honestly, I recommend living with men. When you're a woman, if it's a safe guy, it's so easy. He was just a great roommate, maybe a little dirty, but overall a great roommate. And so we brought him in, and then we brought in a third girl into the mix. So we had us 3 girls and 1 guy living in the same house. And at first it was a dream come true. I was so excited because I had gotten what I had been praying for my dog. I had gotten myself out of a small apartment and into a big house. I just felt really excited and really taken care of, and like all the things that I had been praying for and dreaming of were starting to come to fruition. So it was great at first. And then what happened, and what I've seen happen many, many times, is when you have 3 women who are really close, there can become kind of a competitive attitude, I suppose, that happens. Where when there's 3, it's easy for one person to be left out. It's the same as with families that have 3 kids. One of them often feels left out. And that's a generalization, but it is something that I've seen in, my family members who have 3 kids, or with friendships who have 3 people part of the friendship. It just kind of becomes a common pattern where 2 of them will start doing something and the other person will feel left out, and it kind of cycles through who's hanging out, and it can just create a sort of difficult dynamic. And that's what, in short, there's a lot more to this story, but in short, that's what happened in my living situation, where my best friend and the new girl that we brought in, they got really close, and some things happened, some really dramatic things that I'm not going to share out of respect for that time in my life and for those people. Some really difficult, painful, hurtful things happened, and I kind of became the one who was pushed out. And through that living situation, my best friend and I stopped being friends. And we didn't just stop being friends, our friendship exploded. It became very volatile. There was a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of hurt feelings on both sides. And the relationship ended pretty quickly after that. I ended up having to move out. I had to break my lease and get a new apartment for Storm and I. So we were back living in an apartment, but thank the Lord it had a dog park. So it was amazing. Still, I was being protected and cared for. But that whole experience was really, really upsetting and really damaging. And it got so bad that at some points I would have to have my other girlfriends come and kind of play mediator, or let me stay in their apartment because I didn't feel safe being in my own home. And the friendship just blew up. So to this day, me and this girl are not friends. And it really breaks my heart. It was a really challenging thing for me to get past, to the point where I was uncomfortable even going out to certain bars or areas in LA because I was scared I was going to see those girls. And as I was going through that, I felt very alone. I had other amazing female friendships who were there for me, but I didn't want to burden them. So oftentimes I just kept what was going on to myself. I suffered in silence. The only real person I shared things with was this guy that I was dating, but it was also a very unhealthy relationship with him. So I didn't really have much of a safe space to turn to. And as I was going through this, sort of breakup with this girl, with my friend, I felt so embarrassed. I felt a lot of shame. I felt just like judged, and like people were gonna, since I was the one being pushed out, I was so scared that people were going to see me as the one who was in the wrong or who caused things to happen. And let me be clear, I was not perfect by any means, but I really did try my best in that situation to not create more problems or drama than necessary. But still, since I was the woman who was pushed out of the situation, and those two girls remained friends, no matter what, I kind of in some ways looked like the bad guy. And I carried that with me for a while. I wouldn't go out. I didn't leave my apartment for a long time. I just stayed home and I watched Yellowstone, and Storm and I would just, I'm looking at her right now, but I would take bubble baths and she'd sit on the bathroom floor with me. And it became the most transformative period of my life, even though it was really hard, because it forced me to slow down and to really start to reflect on the people around me and the person that I am within. And I quickly discovered that I was holding on to a lot of old friendships that were no longer meant to be a part of my life. Not that I was better than them or anything like that, but just simply the direction I was going in was a different direction than they were going in. And everybody has their own past. That's just what happened for me. But I was hanging on really tightly to those friendships because I was so scared to lose them and to have to rebuild or to look bad or to be lonely. I had all those fears. And then when this girl and when our friendship ended, it really forced me to sever ties with a lot of those people. And like I said, I went through a period of complete isolation, probably for a 6-7 month period. I just turned inwards and I had this huge spiritual awakening that I believe played a huge role in getting me to where I am today. But even though the outcome was something so beautiful, and even though it helped me build and work through and kind of like weed out any friendships that weren't meant for me and build great ones, it still was extremely challenging. I felt very traumatized by the situation. I felt very hurt. Like I said, there's just a lot of emotion that was coming up, and I had nowhere to put that emotion. And I'm grateful to say that now, roughly almost 4 years later, I do feel very healed from that situation. I have absolutely nothing but love for those women, the women who hurt me, the friendship breakups I went through. I don't feel any sort of ill will or malice or anger towards them. I've really worked through that. I've forgiven them, within myself. I haven't talked to them again, but I've forgiven them. I've moved past it. I've tried to do my best to just like see them with nothing but love and just kind of say, this is what happened and it's okay. And I've really cultivated a deep sense of detachment and acceptance with the situation. But at the time, it was really, really hard. Just like going through a romantic breakup is one of the most challenging things you will go through, so is going through a friendship breakup. We just don't talk about it as much. But you guys, when your friendships end, let me validate you. It's truly okay to mourn. It is extremely difficult to go through a situation like that and to lose a friend, especially because friends, like I was saying, are oftentimes people who we think will be by our side forever. We don't necessarily anticipate friendships breaking up. We don't see that coming. And so when it does, it's a complete shock. When this happened with my old roommate and girlfriend, I think most of all, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that it had happened. Her and I had this amazing friendship. I loved her so much, and nothing I could seem to do in that situation was making it better. Even though I tried everything I knew, every tool I had, I tried conversations, hard conversations. I tried being really cordial in the household. That ended up being misconstrued as me being petty and like I was just saying hi to be difficult, but really I was trying to create a safer environment in my own home. I tried everything I knew how to do and could think of to mend that friendship. And there became a point where I had no choice but to set a really, really strict boundary to protect myself because nothing I was trying was working. And it was really hard, and I really had to grieve that situation and that time in my life. It was just like any romantic breakup I've gone through. there was a period of healing that followed it. So I wanted to tell you all that story, and there are many examples that I could tell you. That's just the most recent one and the most honestly dramatic one that I've gone through. So I wanted to share it. So any of you who've gone through friendship breakups can know you're not alone. And you can know that if you are still healing from it, that's completely normal. I would expect you to heal from a friendship breakup the same way that you need to heal from a romantic breakup. So with all that said, I want to talk about some of the top reasons as to why I see friendships ending and what you can do about it. The first reason why I see friendships end is because we simply sometimes outgrow people. Again, like I was saying earlier, it's not because we are better than them. It's not because we think that our lives are, more important than theirs. It's simply that people take different paths in different directions in life. So sometimes who was in our past is just not meant to make it to our future, just like we're not meant to make it to theirs. And this can be challenging because it's hard to lose friendships and you want to hang on to any friendship that you have. But at the same time, sometimes it has to happen. Sometimes you have to shed old things to step into the new thing that's waiting for you just around the corner. So the best thing that you can do when you realize you are outgrowing a person or a friendship is sit back and accept. Accept that this is a natural part of self-development, of growing up, of becoming an adult, and don't allow it to mean more than that. Don't allow yourself to become so just hurt by the fact that your friendships look different today than they did last year. Allow yourself to keep growing and to keep attracting the people who will make it with you for the rest of your life, the people who are meant to be your people. Keep allowing yourself to grow. Keep allowing yourself to change, because this truly is just a part of life. If we don't allow this to happen, we're honestly going to stay stagnant and complacent. We're going to be held back in our life, not necessarily because those people want to hold us back. Sometimes they do, but most likely just because it's time for a new chapter and we're refusing to let go of the old one. So accept the outgrowing of friendship, let them go with nothing but love and light, and see that time period in that friendship with nothing but positive feelings and gratitude, and allow yourself to step into new communities and new friendships that are meant for the new stage that you're in now. And know that it's okay if you have to do this many times until you find the people who are truly aligned with you and who will be your people forever. The second reason that I see most commonly for why friendships end is jealousy, betrayal, or mistreatment. When that happens, when a friend mistreats you, when they are unkind to you, when they turn out not to be a true friend, you need to let that friendship go. I had to let my old roommate go, my old friend go. Even though I loved her deeply and even though I wanted to work through things, there was just too much damage that had happened unless both of us were willing to work on it, for us to ever be friends again. So in those situations, if your friend is mistreating you, just like in a romantic relationship, you need to leave. Only people who are truly in your corner and have your back and are willing and ready to grow with you have the right to have access to your friendship. There should be no toxic people allowed in your life. Take a step back right now in this moment and think about anybody who is unhealthy in your life, and it's a relationship, a person who isn't willing to change or work through things. Take account of those people, take account of maybe some toxic people in your life, and choose to let them go. Choose to say, again, I send you on with nothing but love, but you are not meant to be in my life. And so I need to set a boundary right now. And hopefully by setting that boundary, things can come back together in the future. We can both take some space and we can heal and become better people and come back together. But for now, this relationship is unhealthy, so I'm removing myself from it. My life, my time, my energy, it is all too valuable to be in friendships that are not for me. The third reason I see friendships end often is because there is not mutual effort on both sides. If this happens, if you feel as though you are giving more of yourself than that person is giving in return, if you are always the one texting, making plans, paying for dinner, whatever it is, if you are the person who's putting in more effort, talk to that person about it. Have a hard conversation, share with them how you're feeling, and give them the chance to step up. And if they don't step up, then maybe take some space and realize that this person isn't quite as interested in the friendship as you are. And know that there are people out there who will be able to give you just as much effort as you're giving them. This is something that I am keenly aware of when it comes to the new friendships that I'm building in Austin. I came into Austin when we moved here, knowing that I wanted to be very intentional with the friendships I was building. Like I said, back in LA, I had incredible female friendships, but it took me years and a lot of broken friendships to find them. And had I been more aware of the way that other people were treating me or reciprocating, or if they were putting in the same amount of effort as I was, then I would have probably avoided a lot of the friendship breakups that I did go through back in LA, because I would have been more intentional about who I was allowing into my space, who I was attracting, who I was getting close with. And I would have been aware of that person's integrity and character, and maybe not allowed all of them, quite as many of them, to get as close as they did. So mutual effort needs to happen in a friendship for it to be a productive and healthy and safe one. And that doesn't mean that, like, just like in romantic relationships, it doesn't mean that both of you will be able to give 100% all of the time. Sometimes we will go through things and we will only be able to give our friendships 10% of us because we are simply overrun by the other difficulties that life is throwing our way. In those instances, a true and good friend will make up the other 90%. They'll come to you, they'll bring you soup when you're sick, they will fill in the gap until you are able to give them back a higher percentage of you, until you are able to give them more of yourself. They will fill in that gap. But overall, if there is not mutual effort on both sides, take some space, talk about it. Maybe those friendships aren't meant to continue, and that's more than okay. The fourth reason for why I see friendships commonly end is because of misunderstandings and disagreements. Communication is hard. It is hard in any relationship. Things get misconstrued. The tone of voice that we use when we say something can be misunderstood. We can say things in a way that we don't even mean them and we're not even aware. Misunderstandings and disagreements are extremely common in friendships, because just like in romantic relationships, friendships are a relationship like any other. We have to treat friendships with as much attention and reverence that we do romantic relationships, because they take the same skills, they take the same intention, they take the same time. We need to build our friendships the way we would any other relationship. And when we're not doing that, when we are not giving our friendships as much attention as we're maybe giving to our romantic relationship, oftentimes there can be confusion, there can be disagreements, misunderstandings. So in this case, if something like this is happening, and this is really what happened with my old roommate, my old friend that I told you guys about, really, it was just a big miscommunication that continued to snowball. And if one of us had been able to take a step back and see that it was just a stupid misunderstanding that could be worked through, maybe we'd still be friends today. I don't know. But if you feel as though a disagreement or misunderstanding is happening in your friendship, ask your friend to share their thoughts and listen to them about what they're feeling from you without becoming defensive. Sorry, guys, I just had to go let my dogs out of my office because Jess, my best friend who's staying with us, just got home from the gym and they think it's an intruder, so they have to go see that it's just my friend. Anyway, back to friendships. Misunderstandings and disagreements. Talk it out. And talk it out in a way that both of you get to say and share exactly what you're feeling, with the other person sitting there and listening patiently and quietly until it's their turn to talk. People talk over each other all the time, and it adds to more frustration, more confusion. So if you literally have to get like a pen or something and pass it back and forth between you two so you can make sure that only one person is talking at a time, please do it. Because again, miscommunication is hard, miscommunications happen, and you need to be very intentional with these conversations that you're having when disagreements are happening within your friendship, so that way you can work through it in a constructive way. And last but not least, another reason why I see friendships end is because you drift apart or you just lose touch. There have been plenty of friendships in my life who, through different life stages, whether I moved or they moved to a new city, or we started college, or we graduated and got a job in a different city, our friendship just ended up drifting apart. And it wasn't because we don't still care about each other or want the best for each other, but life, like I keep saying, takes us down different roads. So sometimes friendships end simply because of life and life happening, and because of growing apart and not staying in touch. And again, that is more than okay. But if there are people in your life who you feel are healthy, positive, amazing people who you want to be a part of your future, then, kind of step up and be the person who helps the relationship stay in contact. Reach out, set up FaceTime calls. I just moved from LA to Austin, and there are a few people in LA who even though I don't get to live in close proximity with them anymore, I want them in my life. Even though it will look different, even though it will be a mainly virtual relationship, I want them to be by my side as my bridesmaids when I get married. So in order to maintain those relationships, I've set up monthly FaceTime calls with them. I just check in with them as much as I can, and I'm not always great at it. I could be better, but I have been much worse at it in my past, and I have not necessarily lost friendships, but moved on from friendships prematurely. So this time around, I'm being much more aware of it. I am making sure that I check in. I'm making sure that I talk to them on like a weekly basis. And my friendships with those people in LA still feel just as strong as they did 8 months ago before I moved to Austin. Like I said, my friend is living with us right now because we have kept in touch and we have kept our friendship going, even despite the distance. So yes, again, mutual effort on both sides. That person should also be reciprocating. If they are not, have a conversation with them about how you still want to keep your friendship going, even though you live apart or even though life is taking you in different directions, and get back to being very intentional with that friendship. And if that's not possible, if you and that person do just keep growing apart, then just trust that that's what's meant to happen. Trust that maybe that isn't a person who's meant to go to the next chapter of your life. And again, just accept and release it with nothing but love. Keep in touch as much as you can, but don't feel guilt or shame if that relationship does start to look a little bit different. It is just part of life and growing up and stepping into new seasons. So when one of those 5 things happen and you and your friend stop being friends, when you go through a friendship breakup, what do you do? How do you get over it? How do you move on? How do you heal? The advice I'm going to give you is very similar to what I would say in a romantic breakup. First and foremost, I want you to grieve. I want you to feel every single feeling that you need to feel, every single emotion you need to let out about that situation, about the friendship ending. I want you to cry. I want you to punch a pillow. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs in your car. I want you to get a therapist, get a coach, and talk it out. I want you to process. I want you to feel those emotions so fully that they stop staying stuck in your body. Like I said, when I was going through my most difficult friendship breakup, I felt every feeling imaginable. I felt grief, anger, embarrassment, sadness, just an immense period of mourning, confusion. I felt it all. And I let myself feel it all. Like I said, I stayed in my apartment for 6, 7 months and I just was really just by myself, just really with myself, really letting myself process and grieve. And that was extremely important because otherwise I would still be bitter towards that friendship and towards that situation today. And today I'm not. Today I feel completely free of it. Today I feel completely moved on from it. I have nothing but love for that girl. And I wouldn't have gotten there had I not felt all the feelings. So just like I tell you to do in romantic breakups, feel it all. Even though it's extremely hard to feel it all, even though it hurts, you need to feel it to release it. So allow yourself a period of grieving and of mourning to help you work through those difficult emotions. Something I always have my clients do and that I've done in my own life is that you can write a letter. And you're not going to send this letter to the other person. You are not going to send the letter to the friend who you are in the process of going through like a breakup and a severance with, but you are going to write it so you can get the emotions out. So write everything down, say anything you need to say, anything that keeps swimming around in your head and you keep having fake conversations over, get it out on paper, say it all, and then let it go. Rip it up, burn it, throw it away, whatever. Don't keep looking at it because the whole point is to move it through your body, release it, and then move on from it. So write a letter to get everything out and then let it go. The next thing to help you get past your friendship breakup is to put yourself in the other person's shoes and see other perspectives other than your own. This can be extremely hard to do in any circumstance in life, and it doesn't mean that you have to accept any hurt or mistreatment that somebody else has put on you, but it does mean that maybe you can see another person's side and not take things as personal or as hard because of that. When I was able to take a step back and remove my ego from the situation of my friendship breakup back in 2020, 2021, and see that part of the reason it was happening was because my friend was also going through a lot, I was able to release a lot of anger towards her and instead replace that anger with love. So take a step back, allow yourself to see other perspectives, view the situation through a fresh lens, even talk to another wise friend or counselor or coach or therapist to get their perspective. And it will help you just really accept the situation and not take it as such a personal thing towards you. So see other perspectives and allow that to help you to move through the breakup even more. Next, take some space. Whether that's from the friend group or from going to the same bars or coffee shops that you and this ex-friend go to, just take some time and some space so you both can move through it and release the emotions before you maybe run into each other again or before you talk again. Let the dust settle a little bit. Let yourself work through those emotions before you step back into mutual friendships or going to the same coffee shops, whatever it is. Just take some space because you need to heal and so does the other person. Another big one to help you move past the friendship breakup is to not talk poorly about the other person to your close friends, to mutual friends, to other people at all. When you talk poorly about somebody else, you are not hurting them. You are hurting yourself. You are poisoning yourself. Every time that you say a bad word about somebody else, you're really saying it about yourself. And it only weighs you down. It only holds you back. There is a difference between hiring a professional or talking to a mentor who is wiser than you to process the things that have happened and bad talking somebody to mutual friends or to other people in your life. That will only hurt you. It will only make you look bad. And it will just keep you stuck in that breakup, in that friendship breakup. Instead, talk to only wise, healthy people who are going to give you sound advice and wisdom, and do not talk about the person other than that. It will give you so much more freedom. It will help you move past the anger and the hurt so much more easily. It will not keep you stuck in that past and in that situation. It will allow you to move on. So no talking about the other person. And lastly, like I keep saying, when you go through a friendship breakup, do your best to just send that other person on their way with nothing but love. I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo when I say that, but I mean it in like the most applicable sense, where when you think about them or you see them or somebody else brings them up in conversation, instead of immediately going to your head and feeling anger over the situation, or like you want to justify your behaviors, or like you want to tell everybody else what they did to hurt you, instead just take a step back and choose love and choose peace and don't say anything, or don't allow your mind to spiral, your thoughts to spiral thinking about it. Just say, this is what happened. Yeah, it was hard, but I accept it. And I know that something good is going to come from it. And I have nothing but love for this other person. Even if they wronged me, I'm letting them go. I'm moving on. I'm accepting. Do your best to do that, because again, when you don't, you're only hurting yourself. When you do, you are allowing yourself to move on. You're allowing yourself to heal. So choose love. Always choose love first and foremost. Okay, you guys, those are my tried and true tips. That's a tongue twister. Those are my tried and true tips. Oh my gosh, that was so hard to say, especially for a girl who had to go to speech therapy to say her R's when she was in kindergarten. That was very challenging. But those are my tips to get through friendship breakups and to come out of them on the other side even healthier than you were before. Give those a try. Listen back on the reasons I listed as to why friendship breakups happen so you can feel more comforted if it does happen again. Just keep this podcast episode fresh and on hand so you can work through these difficult situations in the best possible way whenever and if ever they come up. I hope that they help. I hope that they give you the comfort that you need to know that you are not alone, to know that friendship breakups are common and they are just as hurtful as a romantic breakup. So you can feel validated, so you can feel seen and heard. I hope that this episode helps. And again, if you want to learn to build better relationships, if you want to do all the things I talked about in this podcast, then sign up for my retreat. It's the Wildly Capable for Women retreat. Women ages 25 to 40 are welcome to join us. It will be in Dripping Springs, Texas, August 30th through September 2nd. We're going to go horseback riding, do yoga, have a chef, do art therapy, have talks and coaching sessions and intensives on dating, relationships, self-worth. And I'm going to help you all learn how to just build better relationships, starting specifically with the relationship that's within. I would love to have you there. And if you're listening to this podcast, you get a special 10% off discount on the retreat. So use code RETREAT on my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com, to sign up now. and I will see you in Texas this Labor Day weekend. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really hope that this episode on friendship breakups just gives you some comfort, some hope. I hope it helps you move through these situations with more grace and strength. And please let me know if it does. Please reach out to me on Instagram or TikTok at Coach Kate DeRocher. That's my handle on both platforms. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to help you work through these things too. So if you are interested in learning how to heal from friendship breakups, romantic breakups, just difficult relationships in general, if you are ready to build better relationships, then head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com. Fill out my coaching application under the tab that says Work With Me, and then I will set up a call with you so we can see if we're fit to work together. I would love to meet you. Please reach out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please be sure to rate, like, and subscribe this podcast episode. Tune in next week. There's going to be more coming on friendships. Just thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you here next week on Wildly Capable with Kate.